Hi, Rabbi Mary.
Good morning. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Norman is not going to be with us today. He's with family and won't be able to uh, uh, help us out when we need him. But Rabbi Mary is here and she'll be able to give us a lot of information. David, let me read the opening prayer and then I'll ask you to do your reading. I'll do it in English this time. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us through your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves in things of Torah. Amen.
Amen.
So, David, why don't you start off with your reading?
Okay, thank you. I've done this one before, but I love it so much that I'd like to do it again.
Okay.
I was going through the Hertz um, uh, uh, daily service book, a very large book with commentary, and I came across the translation of Adon Olam, which was the one that they use is Solomon ibn Gebraro. And he lived from the year 1021 to 1058. And it is by far the most beautiful English translation of Adon Olam. And one thing before I start is in the third verse, we'll see his nature or his loneliness. And that is what gave me the idea if God is so powerfully lonely, I'm wondering if there was a Mrs. God before long ago when the universe was very, very young. And it turns out probably not. And Marty made the wonderful assessment that possibly God, when he created the world, actually existed as a female or simply without gender at all. But here it is. Lord of the world, he reigned alone, while yet the universe was not. When by his will all things were wrought, then first his sovereign name was known. And when the all shall cease to be, in dread lone splendor he shall reign. He was, he is, he shall remain in glorious eternity. For he is one no second shares his nature or his loneliness. Unending and beginningless, all strength is his, all sway he bears. He is the living God to save my rock while sorrows, toils endure, my banner and my stronghold sure, the cup of life whene'er I crave. I place my soul within his palm before I sleep, as when I wake, and though my body I forsake, rest in the Lord in fearless calm. One thing about this that really got to me was the poet's choice of rhyme scheme. He used the Tennyson and Memorial ABBA rhyme scheme for this lovely, lovely poem. Thank you very much, and back to you, Marty.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, hi, Kent. Hi, Kent. Okay, you can hear me. Good. Okay. Well, I was told
Marty,
that we are in Numbers. Yes, go ahead.
David, what I want for you to reread, please, the first two lines of what you just read.
The first two lines,
Yes.
certainly, Lord of the world, he reigned alone, while yet the universe was not. And those are the first two lines.
Okay, so go for two more.
When by his will all things were wrought, then first his sovereign name was known.
Okay, in the Hebrew, what we do sing is a very crucial thing. I'm going to mention it, and I'm sorry that Michael is not here. But when we say Hadon Olam, what we do say is Beli Reshit, Beli Tachlit, which means without beginning and without end, which means that it's not like the door behind me that begins here and finishes there. And the only way that we know that it exists is because it has a beginning and has an end. You see, your face, David, starts here and ends here. So that's the only way that we can see it. If it was just something that doesn't have beginning and end, we cannot see. Do you get what I'm saying? Anyone?
Absolutely.
Uh, you see, so everything that exists in our world has a beginning and has an end. Now, I'm not talking even as a story that has a beginning and has an end. I'm talking about real stuff, concrete things. Everything that's concrete and we can see has a beginning and it has an end. If I put my book here, you can see where it begins and when it ends. So when we talk about God, godliness, dynamic, whatever you want to see, I encourage you to remember these lines because that's what shows us of the abstraction of that God. It's not a human being that starts here and finishes here, starts here and finishes there. It's without beginning and without end, which is a notion that we cannot even grasp.
Right.
What is something that doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end? Do you have a question about that? Or a thought?
So a simple way of saying it is that God is eternal.
Well, that's about eternal is a notion of time. So that's for sure as well. It doesn't have a beginning on
Yes.
Friday morning at 2 o'clock and ends at 5 o'clock. Again, so with time again. I'm talking even, yeah, it absolutely can be
Yeah.
eternal for time, but also for view, for vision, for touch. It's something that it's completely abstract. And an abstraction is very difficult for us to grasp. So people decided that whatever God is looks like this or this or this. And for other cultures, including Christianity, if you cannot see God, so you see his son. Because just to see the whole thing, it's beyond us. Okay, so just remember that because it's a very, very important issue on the God of our tradition. And now let's go to the
Okay. Well, that touches on something.
and
That touches on something that is rather interesting. Some people believe that God had to hide himself or her. I know some people use other pronouns and like that, but God had to conceal himself so that the world would be able to come into being and grow and everything, that God had to not have a finger in everything, okay, in the act of creation. And once he created it, then he hid himself. And that act, you may remember some lectures that Mark Rosenberg used to give on this, and it's called the Ein Sof, AYN Sof, SOF, and it is it's nothing but everything. Some of you remember the poem I wrote, The Bagel. Think of it as a bagel, the hole in the bagel. It's a hole is there's nothing in it, but it's everything. Otherwise, you don't have a bagel.
Right.
So that's the entire essence of a bagel.
For those who are mathematicians or remember mathematics from school, what's the biggest number that you can mention? What's the largest number?
Infinity.
There you are.
That's right.
Ein Sof. So the word Ein Sof means infinity.
As
in
well.
which you
That's
can-
right.
So there is no end. End
Right.
does not begin. Okay.
Anyway,
Rabbi Miri, thank you for that. It was really interesting, your commentary. Thank you.
Thank you.
I find that it's interesting as we go through different periods in time, there are different usage of the language, whether it's in English or French or German, it doesn't matter. But each culture uses slight nuances and changes over time. And it's really an interesting thing that's happened in interpretation. Well, I was told, Rabbi Mary, we're starting on Numbers 17, verse 16. Is that correct? Is
I
that
thought
where you
it
left
was
off?
17 verse 1.
Yeah, I think so, because then that's where the plague ended.
Right. Okay. So we're on Numbers 17, verse 16.
Yes.
Okay, David, since you were gracious to do a little reading for us before, would you care to read verses 16? Now, you do remember that this is all following the Korach. I'm going to use the word rebellion, and there was eventually a plague that wipes out a good number of people who were in essence, the followers of Korach. So uh, now this is sort of like maybe God thinks a lot when he makes a decision, he also appears in Torah to also have other thoughts related to that. Because now he says, wait a minute, we need another lesson. So we have another story. Okay. So,
Okay, so
and so
16.
that's where this comes from. And if you
Oh, I'm sorry. We continue after that because we talk about the staffs, that one of them became an almond. Do you remember that?
okay,
Aaron's
Let's
staff.
go back.
what did you discuss about the staff?
I don't remember if we discussed, but so let's read it again and
Okay,
about that.
okay. So David, if you would care to read from verse 16 um, through the uh, end of uh, verse 26.
That's correct.
Thank you. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, by the Beard of Noel, Moshe, Lamor, speak unto the children of Israel, and take of them rods, one for each father's house, of all their princes according to their fathers' houses. 12 rods. Thou shalt write every man's name upon his rod. And thou shalt write Aaron's name upon the rod of Levi. For there shall be one rod for the head of their fathers' houses. And thou shalt lay them up in the tent of meeting before the testimony, where I meet with you. And it shall come to pass, the man who I shall choose, his rod shall bud, and I will make to cease from me the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against you. And Moses spoke unto the children of Israel, and all their princes gave them rods, for each prince one, according to their fathers' houses, even 12 rods. And the rod of Aaron was among their rods. And Moses laid up the rods before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded and put forth buds and bloomed blossoms with large ripe almonds. And Moses thought, and Moses brought all of the rods, brought out all of the rods from before the Lord unto all the children of Israel. And they looked and took even every man his rod.
Okay, please let me read the Friedman, which is a different translation. Okay, so
Yes, please.
look at this. And Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and take from them a staff for each father's house, from all their chieftains by their father's house, 12 staffs, since there are 12 tribes.
Tribes.
You shall write each man's name on his staff, and you shall write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi, because there shall be one staff for the head of their father's house. So Levi is the tribe that he mentioned, that Aaron's belonged to. And you shall leave them on in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony, where shall I meet with you? That's Adonai speaking. And it will be that the man I'll choose, his staff will bloom, and I will decrease from the complaints of the children of Israel that they have been making against you, against Moshe. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and all the chieftains gave him a staff for each chieftain by their father's house. Father's house means tribe, 12 staffs. And Aaron's staff was among their staff. And Moshe left the staffs in front of Adonai in the tent of the testimony. And it was the next day, and Moshe came to the tent, and guess what? And here Aaron's staff of the house of Levi had bloom. And it brought out a bloom, and it made a blossom, and it produced almonds. And Moshe brought out all the staffs from front of Adonai's tent to the children of Israel, and they saw, and each one took his own staff. And Adonai said to Moshe, put back Aaron's staff in front of the testimony for watching over, for a sign to rebels, and you'll end the complaints against me, against Adonai, and they won't die. And Moshe did it, as Adonai has commanded him. So now the staff of Aaron with the blossoms of almonds is staying in the tent of meeting to remind them, don't complain because you're going to be in trouble. So it's a reminder, just like, and I think I mentioned the mezuzah is a reminder, that feeling is a reminder, that feeling of the head is a reminder. All these are reminders, since we forget so quickly. especially if we are in this age. So that's what's happening now. The blossom of the staff of Aaron becomes an almond tree or whatever.
Very good. That's very important. Now, why a staff? Why would God choose a staff to
And
do
let's
all this?
ask, what is a staff?
Yeah, what is it? What is it?
So
Yes, go ahead, Marcia.
perhaps it's a staff to walk among the people, not
Well,
to just hold
yes.
yourself up, but to be able to walk among your people.
Okay. How do you use a staff?
To keep you strong.
No.
No,
To keep you
to keep you
balanced,
walking. I don't know.
No. What? Yes, yes, Marianne.
to keep you balanced.
Nope.
All of those are right.
They're correct, but that's
there
not
is
the real
one.
purpose of it.
Yeah,
What is what is the people growing around them? Okay, not crops, but what kind of animals are they growing?
Sheep and
Sheep.
Sheep.
Sheep. And what does a shepherd do with the staff?
He makes the sheep go which direction he wants.
Yes,
He
I
guides
don't know
them.
if you've ever
He
seen
guides
the use of
them.
that. That's very good, Marianne. Yes, that is correct. Anything else that the staff is used for?
do you remember what Moshe did with the rock?
Mm-hmm.
You remember? That's why I didn't go to Canaan.
That's right.
He hit.
Yes.
And how did he part the sea?
With the staff.
With the staff. So, yes, David.
And to me, it is possible that the staff is a reminder of the power of God. And I think his first obvious use of Moshe's staff was when they were in Egypt, and he held it out and to announce the coming of a plague, the parting of the Red Sea, and all of those wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful things.
So, so, so God is doing, also tells Aaron to use his staff too, for those for some of the plagues. So it's God has endowed the staff with a very deep meaning. But the staff has been used throughout the ages. Okay, you know the phrase "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me."
From the Shema.
Yes. Okay, it's in the Psalm. I think the 23rd Psalm.
It is the 23rd Psalm.
And so a staff has some sort of power. Have you ever seen a shepherd herd his sheep? You can use it in many ways, but he does it gently. He does it gently. He prods them and pushes them in a certain direction with that, and may talk to them at the same time. For a sheepdog, the sheepdog learns signals with the staff. And with the staff, they can direct the dog to run in certain directions. So it's leading the sheepdog too. And the dog does the herding. It makes it a little easier for the shepherd. But there's more to it. What is the I'm trying to think of another word for it. What is the object that somebody in charge uses, okay, in ancient times to signify leadership? When the president enters Congress, how is the president heralded?
Everybody stands up.
No,
With a
they
staff.
do not until something happens.
Is announced.
No, it's traditional. The door opens, and in years past, there would be a staff that would be pounded on the floor. Hear ye, the President of the United States. Now, it's not always used. Royalty. Why does royalty use a staff? It's a symbol of authority. So, all of the chiefs have a staff. 12 staffs. Okay? So what do they do with that? They're shepherding their flocks, okay, using it for that. But they are also, it's a symbol of their authority over their particular clan. Now, Moses and Aaron have a staff, and Aaron is assigned to lead the priesthood. Okay? So if everyone else has a staff and they still haven't gotten the message, wouldn't it be a nice way of doing it without violence just to have one staff in particular bear leaves and fruit, flower and bear fruit, to show whose staff would lead all the other staffs. And hence Aaron would be leading, his word as well as Moses' word, which has been mentioned before. We'll get into why Moses' staff it doesn't have flowers, but because Moses does have a staff, but it isn't used for this purpose. But therefore, think of and Marsha was close, and Marianne was close. He is the leading shepherd. Think of the concept. These are, if you now look at this story in that fashion, you say, oh, wait a minute. Now I understand why this message is here. God is showing that and reminding them that he chose Aaron to be of the priestly clan. So if you look at it that way, then it makes a lot of sense. So that's why it has to be also a reminder for everyone. You have the fire pans that have now been melted down and molded into a cover for the ark. You also have the staff of Aaron, which is going to always be present. Okay, to show that his staff was the best staff that there was. Now, why doesn't Moses have a staff, take out a staff for him, for himself? That's the next question. The story does not address that. So I'm going to ask the question. We can make up our own midrash.
May
Go
I
ahead.
comment?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
First, thank you for sharing those insights, and I accept every one of them. But there's a couple of things that I read differently.
Sure.
Okay, well, here we go. One is that Moses, prior to his the intervention of God to bring him back to Egypt after he had left, because he was a shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a staff, and and I would think that, well, what I think about the 12 tribal leaders, that none of them were shepherds because they were the leaders, but allegorically, yes. Yeah, because they're leader. So who are they emulating with their staff? Moses. He's the
Mm-hmm.
top banana. They want a staff. It's no different, absolutely no different in contemporary society. When you get Major League Baseball or even the minor league Tucson Roadrunners, and you go to one of these matches and people are wearing a jersey of a key player. They're emulating, like, hey, So I'm also like, this guy. Well, so I think one, they weren't necessarily shepherds per se themselves. They have the staff, but what I find most interesting, and in a way, when you read it and it's all retrospective, is God's sense of humor. He knew exactly who he was going to pick and who's right. It's like, oh, and by the way, make sure Aaron puts his name on his, and he has it in. I mean, why, if he's the leader of that tribe, that's already going to happen, is it not? Was he not the head of the Levites?
Yeah, in essence, yes.
Okay, so
That's
he was
right.
already going to have a staff put in there, but he's singled out, and then lo and behold, boom, it flourishes, and the wooden rod becomes a plant. So I find it's all fascinating, but I agree with everything you said. And even today, the staff, as you mentioned in the Congress, I remember that, the pounding of it's usually a black staff with a kind of a goldenrod handle, and the president, but also, the Pope. Has there ever been a picture of him standing up without his staff, his sepulcher? I mean, that's his sign of authority. So it all dates back to the ancient Hebrews and the Torah. It's not just a sign of authority, it's a sign of divine sanctity or selection, like you're the top. Same thing with usually the kings. The European kings were all
Yes.
supposedly divinely appointed or anointed,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even to this day. I mean, I don't even know if the kings and queens in Europe today, including Britain, believe it, but supposedly they have a divine right to govern and rule,
Mhm.
and they all have sepulchers or staff. So yeah,
Sure.
it's interesting. Yeah, thank
So
you for sharing.
you're welcome. You're welcome. It's just a slightly different interpretation, but it gives you a little understanding. But also a shepherd, they're different there are other connotations about shepherding in Psalms. Okay. Can anybody think it's also the Lord is my shepherd, right? 23rd Psalm.
Now, Matthew, you remember the lecturer that came to your congregation about translations?
Yes.
And he said that the shepherd is not a real shepherd, that it was something else. So I keep remember that. Also, if
Well,
you
there are
went
some,
on the,
there are
yeah,
things that a shepherd has to do that you are correct. We're only talking about one aspect.
now, if you went on an organized tour, the leader will hold something, either an umbrella or a sign or a stick. So you can follow that.
That's right.
So which is nice. And I think that what Marianne and Marcia said is
Yes.
support is absolutely another way of doing it. So
That's-
and why Aaron? Because the whole idea was that Aaron was really angry. Why Moshe is the one that slits when I'm his brother and come from the same place. So this blossoming of Aaron, maybe it's like what do you call the prize when someone doesn't win something, it doesn't win the prize, is uh,
Booby prize, the runner-up prize,
the what?
the booby prize or the runner-up prize, second
No,
place.
it's like a runner-up, or there is a consolation prize, something like that. So he gets a staff blossoming
That
and
blossoms.
becoming a symbol. So the idea about complaining there is double, is the complaining of the people, but that's the complaining of leadership, is complaining about leadership. Korach doesn't want Moshe to tell him what to do, and Aaron is angry that he is not the leader, and that's when Miriam gets sick. So the staff is very, very symbolic for
Yes.
all the things that everyone in this group mentioned, absolutely.
It can also be used as a weapon.
Very true.
Uh, That's correct. That's correct. So anything that we have to be used one way or the other.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
I asked the question, why is it that Moses, he also uses a staff, it's mentioned like in the battle with the Amalekites. He raises his staff, and as long as his arm stays raised, the Israelites can win. If he gets tired and the staff is lowered, they
It's
start
his
to
hand.
lose.
It's about his hands,
That's right.
Joshua and Caleb holds his hands because
Right.
they put them up, as you say, they win. When he gets tired, that's why
Yeah.
they hold him. Yeah, it's
So,
basically is an extension of your arm.
yes.
These days, the extension of something else is having a big car. I won't mention why, but it's for another extension
Yeah.
of force. Yes.
Yes. So there are many different ways. We have, there are other symbols that we use. Uh, Flags, okay, are raised in battle. Okay, and the charge is led by whoever is carrying the flag. They're out in front. It's not a kicker. It's not like in football where the kicker stays behind. It's the kicker stays ahead. Okay, of the line in battle. And
Okay, so we can now continue on verse 20 something, right?
Well, but nobody answered my question. Why Moses
Is what?
does not, his staff isn't chosen to flower.
Because God chose him for a different purpose. If God,
Very good. So what
if
is
God
that purpose?
assigns each person a place and a purpose to carry out his will, we can't all do the exact same thing all the time. So God assigned a purpose to Moses and he assigned a purpose to Aaron.
Right.
Right.
Aaron represents a tribe, they say.
That's right.
Moshe doesn't represent anything. He is the leader of the entire thing, of all the tribes. His staff doesn't represent a tribe. He's not the elder of a tribe.
Remember, Aaron is the elder
Thank
of
you.
the two. And also, if his staff is not, I'm going to say adorned, we would say, um, uh, why would he have a very simple staff? I'm trying to give a clue. Would somebody who is a prophet be holding some, would he hold a simple staff or one with blaring horns or sprouting fire and or flowers or anything? That does a prophet need all of that? Or does a prophet just need to be able to help guide with words?
I think he just needs to help guide. If that staff were adorned, like you're saying, with all these decorations, people aren't going to be so much listening to his words. Their attention is going to be drawn towards the staff and the artistry on the staff. So to keep it back to Moses, it's got to be simple, it's got to be understood, it's got to be without adornment. That's what I think.
Okay. Usually, God tells Aaron what to do, now, but originally Moses had to tell Aaron what to do because Moses is the prophet. He speaks directly with God, but Moses is also humble. So maybe having a staff allows Moses to be an important person in another way. When we think of the word prophet, what are the things that we think of? The characteristics of a prophet. Is it just somebody who gives speeches and like, carries a sign, or things like that? How do we know that somebody is a prophet? What are the characteristics? Do they go around in flashy garb? Or are they humble people? And clothing has no meaning for them. They should all put on something that may have been worn innumerable times. But it's something that they're very, when you hear the word prophet, you think of somebody who is humble, speaks softly, and carries a big stick. Not so much Teddy, but it's somebody who expresses things but has a connection. God, you're spouting the words. When you open your mouth, it's God speaking. It's not you speaking the word of God. It's God speaking through you. We had had that type of discussion in years past. So maybe that's why Moses doesn't get a sprouting staff, but his staff can do other types of miracles. Okay. Something from nothing, water from a rock, as it was mentioned. Kent mentioned that. So
Yeah.
it's a little different concept. Yes, go ahead.
Well, unless I missed it, in all cases, in Numbers, God is directing Moses. Aaron, and it's not so much to me showing that giving Aaron certain um, authorities, though he is elevated among the others with the selection of his staff, but it's all about Moses um, demonstrating that he's in charge,
Yes,
not Aaron, but it's Moses. So in a way, Moses, he's his man Friday is not just his brother.
right.
He's doing what he's supposed to do to support his brother. Because one has to assume that he fully believes that Moses is speaking or has a communion with God in a way that they're able to speak to each other. And so, yeah, I think that's actually a pretty keen way to demonstrate power. One last thing I want to say is I don't think, given that time and where they were, that a staff, and if you envision a staff not just the size of a cane, as like to walk, if you have a limp, you have a cane, but one of these large things right out of the Ten Commandments movie where you got this big staff. So if they're of that ilk, I think it was more the exception than the rule that people could find the proper length, wood, log,
Mhm.
whittle it down, um, and you have yourself a staff. So it just seems like those who are either smarter, sharper, or their intention was to be a leader would want to have a staff, and as well as shepherds per se. But that's just my thinking on it.
One last question. Why an almond blossom?
Because it's
You
pretty.
answer that one.
It is pretty. It is pretty.
Why not? That's the Jewish answer.
Uh, there, it's symbolic well, it's symbolic of springtime in the Middle East. Okay, it's one of the first plants to flower, or if not the first plant to flower. So that has extra meaning to all of this as well. If you think about, you know, symbolism when people are writing poetry, is what was brought up before, and things like that. So I just, wanted to toss all those things out. Now we'll put that aside, and we will, I think, unless somebody has something else they want to bring up. It was good discussion. Thank you for your contributions, everyone. That was really helpful. So now we are on Numbers 18, verse 1. So,
No.
aren't we? Oh, no, I
18,
skipped over verse 27. I forgot.
yeah, we are on 27.
It was
Yes,
just verse 27.
that's correct.
Marianne, could you read just verse 27 for us?
Sorry, not yet. I don't have the
Oh, okay.
ordered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kent, do you have a book in front of you? Good. If you could read just verse 27.
Good. I shall, but I want to tell you that it's most interesting. This sentence appears right here because it's not exactly what
You would
Moses
expect.
seemed to have in mind or God had in mind, really.
That's right.
I mean, however they read it, they didn't read it the way it was intended to be a lesson. Okay. But the Israelites said to Moses, "Lo, we perish. We are lost, all of us lost. Everyone who so much as ventures near the Lord's tabernacle must die. Alas, we are doomed to perish."
It's an interesting interpretation by the people.
All they wanted, God and Moses, the intent, as I read it, the prior section was to let them know who's boss, to not revolt against them, and just if they're going to get to the promised land, they need to follow God's dictates. But this, they interpret it, God says, if anybody comes, they're mutterings lest they die. Well, all they have to do is not mutter against God, and yet they're reading it, they're going to die. So that's all I have to say on that. It's quite
Yeah, they
interesting.
that's probably because they liked to mutter.
Yeah, under their breath.
And oh my goodness. So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, they're having a hard time getting it. That's all you can say. They just don't understand. Uh, any other comments about it, Rabbi Murray?
Well,
Do
they
you have
ask if
any?
this is the end of expiring. Is there anything else? They had the earthquake and they had the what
Yeah.
else did they have there? They had the plague and they have this. Okay,
Yeah.
is this the end of this? Okay, okay, fine. We are not going to stand here. We're not going to go inside. But tell us that this is not going to continue or going to come again. And
And yeah, it's one of those things that the people
and we're
also
finished
probably
again.
what's working on them is part of that message that they probably will not see the promised land. It'll be future generations.
Well, this is not very clear here.
That's
I
right.
want to know if anything else is coming.
Oh yeah.
Okay, fine. Did you finish killing us? Uh, okay, we'll do what you want and we'll go home. Just promise us that you ended there, that it's not going to be a flood, for example, or that it's going to be a volcano or a tsunami or something. So I said, okay, we had enough. We got the idea. We got it. We're going to behave now. So that's that statement. They ask, is this the end of being punished? So, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's another way of looking at it. Sure. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. So uh, Kent,
Hmm?
would you be able to read uh, now we're on chapter 18,
Hmm.
verses 1 through 5. Okay, right. That's just
Got it.
arbitrary on my part. Sure.
Here we go. 18. The Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons in the ancestral house under your charge shall bear any guilt connected with the sanctuary. You and your sons alone shall bear any guilt connected with your priesthood. You shall also associate with yourself your kinsmen, the tribe of Levi, your ancestral tribe, to be attached to you and to minister to you, while you and your sons under your charge are before the tent of the pact. They shall discharge their duties to you and to the tent as a whole, but they must not have any contact with the furnishings of the shrine or with the altar, lest both they and you die. They shall be attached to you and discharge the duties of the tent of meeting, all the services of the tent, but no outsider shall intrude upon you. As you discharge the duties connected with the shrine and the altar, that wrath may not again strike the Israelites."
Oh,
Why don't we read until 8? Because that's the end
okay.
of not the parasha, but the what the Torah says to stop there.
Oh, okay.
Want me to just go read 6
Go
to
ahead.
8
First,
until 8?
yeah,
Okay.
7, 6 and 7.
Got it. I hereby take your fellow Levites from among the Israelites. They are assigned to you in dedication to the Lord to do the work of the tent of meeting, while you and your sons shall be careful to perform your priestly duties in everything pertaining to the altar and to what is behind the curtain. I make your priesthood a service of dedication. Any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death.
Okay.
Comments? Rabbi Mary, do you have any?
So let's ask, what's Aaron's job? And what is the Levi's jobs? Because we remember that Aaron actually belongs to the Levites, but
Sure.
there are simple Levites and upper class Levites like Aaron.
Yes.
Aaron and his sons have a specific job, and the rest of the Levites have another specific job, and they cannot do what Aaron is doing.
Was it the sacrifices?
Right, that's what the Levites do.
Right.
It's not just the sacrifices, but cleaning up after the sacrifice.
That's right.
You know? All
Right.
this
The Levites, the tribes people, but Aaron and his sons were responsible for the sacrifices.
Yeah, but Aaron is responsible for something that only he can do, and is coming to the Holy of Holies.
Right.
Right.
Now, the sacrifice is right. They are in the hands of Aaron and his sons and everything that, but what the Levites are supposed to do, since it says the Levites are going to serve you. How they
Right.
serve him, how they serve the Aaron and their son, the entire tribe of Levites.
Well,
It says that the
they'd have to furnish the sacrificial animals.
well,
Wouldn't
the
it?
other people bring the sacrificial animals. You know, anyone that wants to do that can do it. You know, if they sinned or if they whatever, they bring a sheep or a cow, they bring it.
You're saying from any tribe.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what tribe, they can bring
Okay.
it. And you're absolutely right. The people from Levi and the sons, mainly the sons and Aaron, take care of that, of that animal that's there. They probably also slaughter it.
Yes.
The rest of the Levites, after all this is happening, they do two things. They take care of the Aaron and the children and his sons by giving them meat to eat, because they don't have they have to feed Aaron and his children and themselves. And they feed themselves from the sacrifices, from what people bring into the temple in the future, because they don't have a land to work. They are not farmers. They didn't get a land. They didn't get a piece of Canaan. So how do they eat? They eat from the sacrifices. That's one thing that's their job, to feed Aaron and the Kohanim, who's the high priest, the high Kohen. But they also are in charge of cleaning. And I'm emphasizing this because after a sacrifice, it's probably really filthy.
It's messy.
Yeah. So they have to clean. They just cannot touch two places there that it says, you know, the Holy of Holies and another one, I don't remember. They cannot touch that. But they really are in charge, if you said, probably to schlep the cow to the place that they slaughter it, and taking the meat to some place, to the refrigerator or whatever they had, and cleaning up. That's not fun, but that's their job. In my mind, the Levites compare to the civil workers in our society. You know, they are paid by the taxes that the rest of the people bring.
Mhm.
You know, it's all the people in the Senate, in the Congress, in the schools, those that make the roads, all those people that attend to the goodness of the entire group have to be fed. And that's why we pay taxes, and some people don't understand that the salary of my job was from taxes. Otherwise, who's going to pay for my teaching? Who's going to pay the people that make the roads and build the bridges? I mean, it's not a private enterprise unless it's a private school, but that's what the Levi's job is. And we read about it, that the rest of the tribes need to make offerings and take care of the Levites. Since, as we'll see in the future, they don't get a piece of Israel. All the rest do. And even then, they have to feed the Levites, who are what I call the civil, that's what you call
Civil servants, yeah.
services. Yeah.
Excuse me,
Very
Very
good.
can I ask a question, Marty?
Sure, go ahead, Mary.
I'm a little confused with this. Is this saying that forever only people of the Levite tribe can be rabbis and priests? Suppose somebody was from another tribe and they wanted to be a rabbi. Are they then excluded? I don't get it.
This is well, go ahead, Rabbi. Go
Well,
ahead.
the issue of rabbis is much, 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 much later.
Okay.
That thing is not but there are special laws for the Kohanim and for the Levites.
Those that in the age of the temples, okay, let's put it that way. That's when all of this is necessary. But when
But later on, Marty, even today,
it
those, I mean,
changes,
not,
yes.
yeah, not in the Reform, not in the Conservative, but the Orthodox communities will follow those rules. Like
Right.
a Kohen cannot go into a cemetery. A Kohen cannot marry a divorced woman. A Kohen, there are rules like that. I don't remember much more. In these days, what you'll see in synagogues is that the Kohanim cover themselves when on Yom Kippur, or so during blessings and so forth. There are those that do the blessings of may you be so and so, may you be so and so. But the notion of rabbi, the meaning of the word rabbi is teacher. So in the communities, you call rabbi the one that taught the kids, that led the services, probably the smartest person or the most educated person would be the rabbi. I suspect that also one of the richest person might be a rabbi, but the notion of rabbinical stuff is different of these days than in the times that we're talking about, if they existed or not at that time. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just found that a little confusing. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Marty, as well.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Um, there's a statement that I found very interesting. Towards the the last part of verse 7, it's one where you have a longer sentence and a shorter sentence, and it says, "I make your priesthood a service of dedication." That's an extra responsibility in my mind. It's like saying, it's because I singled you out. Now you better understand that you are now dedicated. Okay. We have multiple times this has come up, the term dedication, the dedication of the firstborn male. In more modern times, it also includes firstborn female. But we're going to be reading about that too very shortly. So this is like a prelude to what the next thing we're going to read. Okay. And it is it's a heavy responsibility.
Mhm.
It's almost like you're taking an oath of office, whether you like it or not, because I singled out the Levites. But they have to be very dedicated in what they're doing. Any comments about that?
Well, the word dedication is to do something very specific, I think. And now I'm talking about the meaning of the word. For example, we dedicated the temple.
Mhm.
The opening of the temple now was like, I don't know, you dedicate the new president, unfortunately. You dedicate yourself to the temple, meaning that you're going to take time to use your time and your force for this specific thing. And
Right.
that's very true. The Kohen is dedicated by God, godliness, whatever, to do a certain job. And the Levites are dedicated to do another job. So it's a word that it's you know, yeah, like the story of Hannah. If you remember, Hannah could not give birth. She didn't have a child. And she was very sad and cried by the temple by Samuel. And Samuel told him told her, "You're going to have a son." And she said, "If I have a son, I'm going to dedicate him to work in the temple." So it's to give something to a certain something. Like, I'm going to dedicate this money to the temple, and I want a plaque, whatever. You're going to dedicate something for a specific reason. Mark is dedicating his time to lead the Torah study group. So it's a very specific job, I would say. And please, all of you know English better than I. You know, in Hebrew, dedicate would be the word leakdish, which is the root of to holy, to make sacred.
Sacred.
Okay, I'm going to make sacred the time that I use in my studio, and no one else can come in. If you want to come in, you have to knock on the door, because I'm dedicating, ani makdisha, I'm making it holy, my time, just for that.
Very good.
Does anyone dedicate something to something? As I say, Marty dedicates his time for this.
Yeah, anytime you volunteer to do something,
Right.
that's you are dedicating yourself to that, and it's a very important level of responsibility that you're assuming,
Absolutely, absolutely.
because you're taking on the responsibility of caring, of helping. It's a these are very important characteristics of a shepherd. Okay, so these are going to also be shepherds for another purpose. These people are going to be, enable the to assist in transporting. I have a question that comes out of this when they take it apart, when they're moving from place to place. And some of the people in the Levites are also going to be carrying certain things, one of which is the ark. Now, if it's set up in the temple, it's the Holy of Holies. How would they be able to approach it in order to carry it?
Now think of the word, Marty, to carry it and to care for.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, that's true. But did they have to throw something over, a shroud of some sort, to protect? Did Aaron have to, and Moses have to cover it with some sort of shroud to protect everyone around it?
is to protect those artifacts.
That's
I
right.
was a kid, they had bar mitzvah, and he had thrown.
No, but
And the parasha was, how do you carry the menorah and the this and the Torah and whatever? And they tell you how to cover it with this color of cloth
yes,
and this piece of leather and so forth. They're very precise on that.
yes,
So yes, it's to protect those things. They're very, very valuable because they are hallowed. They are
yes,
sacred.
sacred. Yes, very good, very good. So it's just a, I know I do this on occasion, take a word and we just like to talk about it for a while. Any other comments? So, we are now going to read
8.
8. I just by it. So we could do that. We could just do verse 8. That'll be
No,
fine.
we can go on. I don't I know that that's.
I know we start there, but we
Ah.
could.
Well, I'd like to
Go ahead, Ken.
suggest, because there's a lot there actually, is 8 through 11, because in that 11, there's something that I saw that is juxtaposed against something I read in 8, and I don't get it. So I'd like, if we can
Okay,
at least go that
But-
far and then see what
sure,
people have to
okay.
say.
That's fine. That's fine. Who would like to read?
Grace would.
Yes, Grace. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, Grace, we are on Numbers 18,
8.
verse 8. We're starting there right now.
Thank you. I've missed all of you. It's good to see you.
Okay. Stay on for a little bit. I have a question to ask you. So when we finish.
Thank you. Yes, I'd be glad to.
Okay. Kent, would you care to read?
Sure. If people don't mind me reading, I don't mind. Okay, here we go. Numbers 18:8.
Yes.
The Lord spoke further to Aaron. I hereby give you charge of my gifts, all the sacred donations of the Israelites. I grant them to you and to your sons as a perquisite, a due for all time. They shall be yours from the most holy sacrifices, the offerings by fire, every such offering that they render to me as most holy sacrifices, namely every meal offering, sin offering, and guilt offering of theirs shall belong to you and your sons. You shall partake of them as a most sacred donations. Only males may eat them. You shall treat them as consecrated. I'm going to read 11 and then I'll end.
Sure.
This too shall be yours, the gift offerings of their contributions. All the elevation offerings of the Israelites I give to you, to your sons, and to the daughters that are with you, as a due for all time. Every one of your household who is clean may eat it.
Okay. Your question.
Sure. So beginning with paragraph 8, and you go down to the last line of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just before, no, go through 9. So don't go to 10 yet. 8 through 9, he's talking about this, he's giving it to Aaron and his sons. So I assume Aaron had no daughters. I'm assuming that. I've never heard of any of his daughters. But again, I may have missed it and I haven't read the entire Torah. All right. But then that last line, it's explicit. Of 10, you shall partake of the most sacred donations. Only males may eat them. You shall
Right.
treat them as consecrated. And I read that as not necessarily being specific to his sons. In other words, it's like all males, of which the sons are a component of that. The next line explicitly adds daughters that are with you. And if Aaron had no daughters, then it's the daughters of the tribe
Yes.
of Levi. So why are women excluded in line 10, and then in 11, they're explicitly included? And I find that problematic.
Okay.
It's problematic for me, but
How do you know
being a
that?
sensitive guy.
Yes. Why do you say that he didn't have daughters?
Women.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's always referred to Aaron's sons, and his two sons were killed. But I don't know that he had daughters unless I've missed it or it's somewhere else in the Torah.
I don't know if he had, but obviously he did.
Okay. Well, not necessarily, because as I'm reading this, it could be simply daughters within the tribe of
Yes.
Levi of other
Right.
people, but they are excluded from partaking of any of the sacred donations. So meaning.
Okay, but just
Now-
a second. I just wanted to. They appear to separate the types of
Sacrifice.
one is a burnt offering,
Mhm.
and the other are the heave offerings and wave offerings. Okay, that's where it's the movement of your hands that direct that. But the ones by fire, they can only the males can have that. But I look at it that when you read verse 11, that it's specifically the heave and wave offerings, which are different categories. They're not they're, I guess you're ranking the reasons why people would be giving a sacrifice. You're giving a rank to atonement, to things like that, but something of gratitude, which is a heave or a wave offering, is not as important as atoning for something bad, let's say, that you can think of. That
Yeah. Well,
because then that's more in the category of a burnt offering.
what Friedman said is that the meaning, the Holy of Holies, meaning in the holiest of holy conditions. And I don't know what conditions these are, but those that, because in Hebrew, the word is kadosh, which is holy. The Holy of Holies is for you and for your son. In the Holy of Holies, you're going to eat, and every male is going to eat. But וזה לך תרומת מתנם. If someone give other types of, what do we call it? When
Sacrifices,
you give, no, when you give money, when you,
donations.
donations, yes, thank you. And when there are donations of the children of Israel, I gave you your children, your sons and your daughter forever and ever. So I'm not sure, and what I'm saying, I'm not sure. I did not research this. If people bring all kinds of sacrifices, and they become holy by certain things that I don't know what makes them holy. Those that are holy, holy, holy are for Aaron and his children, his sons.
Right.
And the others that people bring as presents, that's what I said, these guys don't make any money. So people in other tribes need to feed them, need to bring them stuff. So what
Right.
I understand here, that stuff, it could be animals, it could be bread that it's called, oil, or whatever it is for your entire family. And I'm not sure that it includes the Levites. In this moment, it seems to me just the Aaron and his children and his daughters, and not the
Right.
entire Levi. But it might be. I suggest that you research that, or you ask your rabbi and see if he knows, or if he knows what it says about it. Kent, I appreciate you draw our attention to it, because it's very unusual what it says. It's very unusual mentioning your daughters. Mentioning daughters is very unusual,
Right.
especially if they're supposed to get anything. So I'm not sure. I'm just fascinated by it.
Mm.
And I really thank you very much for that. Maybe Marty can go to Plout or to someone else and figure that one out.
I have something here by Rabbi Plow, but Marcia has had her hand up. Yes.
Okay, well, this is my women's interpretation. And it says at that time to give to you and your wives and your sons and to the daughters that eat with you. The daughters don't always
Right.
eat with them? Why?
Well, usually the daughters, the women and the men were separated. You know, the women were always in the kitchen and the men were in the dining room.
But this is to the women, the daughters that eat with them are given that.
Right, because usually they are in the kitchen and they are in the dining room.
So after they finished cooking, they sat down as a family.
They separate.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, I don't, it doesn't say that.
I don't, it's complicated, Marcia. You're pointing out.
Okay,
a very-
thank you so much.
Yeah, a very
Yeah.
important point.
Well, but what I wanted to mention, the Rabbi Plow does answer Kent's question.
Oh,
Um,
let's see it.
And basically, it says the former offerings. That means the ones that start out in verse 9. Okay, these are the burnt offerings.
Mhm.
Okay, they were related to forgiveness of sins. Okay, so atonement. Okay, as opposed to later on, he discusses it that the other things were represented. It's the fat of the land, if you will. And you're giving gratitude. It's like saying, I'm thankful for having so much. And then, and it says here, the Torah does not specify the amount that the Israelites were to offer in this particular case, but it was for everyone. In other words, it was no longer for just for the priests. Okay, it was now for everyone, and so they could offer as much as they wanted. It wasn't mentioned that it says the Torah does not specify the amount that the Israelites were to offer. The kind of offerings were mentioned, okay, earlier on, but I'll come back to you, Kent, in a second. But this was debated. And in the Mishnah, and it goes into very fine details about percentages of what depending on what people wanted to give or were asked to give. And then in some cases, as Rabbi Plaut comments, to this day, some observant Jews will not take a portion of anything new, such as a bottle of soda. And in order to observe the command, spill or spoil a portion, and this comes much later in the time of the Mishnah. And so that what they'll do is just gently, spill a little portion and they can consume it. As if it's they're mimicking the portion that had to go to the priests. But then anybody could consume that. So what he's saying is that basically the first part of this is only for the priests, the male priests, and everything else, the sons, the daughters, the wives, it didn't make any difference. Everybody could partake in what was left over after the first portion had been, dedicated and sacrificed, such as a tithe, okay, whatever that amount was. And then so everybody could partake in with the wave offerings. The tithes were wave offerings and heave offerings. So everyone else in the family could eat, not just the men. That's his explanation. Yes, go ahead, Ken.
Thanks for sharing that. And let me give back to what I believe I heard that you shared, and tell you that some of it now makes some connections for me. But I want to confirm something first. At the time that the Israelites were wandering, and at this point they're still wandering, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use that term loosely, but they haven't entered the Canaan. Okay. That the individual Israelite did not make expiation of their sins for themselves, but through the sacrifices and Aaron and
You got it.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then continue that up through the destruction of the second temple. That was still the case, correct?
Yes.
So that the individual Hebrew, Israelite, Jerusalem, didn't make expiation for their sins themselves. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
They needed an intermediary. Let's put it
Got
that
it.
way.
As long as
Okay.
the temple existed, yes.
Okay. So when you couple that or link that to the types of offerings, in this case, the burnt offerings explicitly were to give some expiation as sin offerings, then given the time and that the Levites, Aaron and his sons, were dedicated for that purpose, then to have women excluded from eating that because it gets to the sin offering component, and only they were ascribed with the ability to do that, then I get that part. And that would be line 10. Even though in my translation now, I'm reading from the Tanakh, the Holy Scriptures, kind
That's
of
okay.
a more
Yeah.
recent. No, the reason why, because I don't have the benefit of finding the Hebrew word and comparing it. But it was strange that in that line 10, in my translation, reads only males may eat them. It doesn't say only your sons may eat them. But go back to a sentence before, he does refer to to the end of line 9, shall belong to you and your sons. So the males, now as I read that, likely refer to sons, expiation, burnt offerings for sins, but there's other types of offerings. And then that next line, 11, again, given what you read on that interpretation, there are other types of contributions,
Right.
and that's the
Sure.
word used here.
That's right.
Gifts of contributions
Right.
that
I
are
have
open to anybody.
donations. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So now I feel better about it because as a dad to a one and only daughter, it has enlightened me since she was born, and I just feel some discomfiture when I read about a segregation of rights between men and women.
Ah, la, la, la.
Yeah.
No, and I don't mean to go,
But this
you know,
intent,
full leftist or anything because I'm not. I just,
I
I
know,
don't,
I
I
know.
don't get it.
But
It-
please don't bring uh, 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 our values to the Torah. It's not fair. Uh,
it's time. Things have changed over time.
yeah, yes
That's all.
and no, yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yeah, but let me read to you what Friedman translation says.
Sure.
Is it interesting? And Adonai said to Aaron, "And I have given charge of my donations to you for all the holy things of the children of Israel. I have given them to you as an anointing and to your sons as an eternal law." So this is what God gave to Aaron and his children. And you're right, the sons. This shall be yours from the Holy of Holies, from the fire, every offering of theirs, every grain offering of theirs, and every sin offering of theirs, and every guilt offering of theirs. Theirs means the rest of Israel. They will pay back to me. When he said to me, God says to me, it's to Aaron. And it's holy of holies for you and for your sons. So all those offerings belong to you, Aaron, and to your sons. You shall eat it in the holy of holies. Every male shall eat it. It shall be both. It's very, very clear in the Torah that women did not go to the Holy of Holies. They did not enter there. But in before we read that only Aaron and his sons are going to go inside. And his sons, not these Levites. And this is, every male shall eat it, it shall be holy to you. And this is yours. Their gift, when it said their, the Am Israel, the people of Israel, all the elevation offerings, they were offerings not
That's
of
right.
slaughter, but putting up elevation offerings of the children of Israel. So anyone that comes, any one of you that is not a Kohen and brings it as an elevation, thank you, God. I think that Anita mentioned that. Offerings of the children of Israel, I have given them to you and to your sons and to your daughters with you as an eternal law. Everyone who is pure in your house shall eat it. So everyone that can eating the elevation giving, but
Right.
not the sacrifice ones, that obviously was done, I think, in a different place, closer to the Holy of Holies. And those are for men only. Others can have that. Yes, Ken.
Well, this is very helpful, but as I understand it now in the context in what we read a little earlier, it wasn't so much that uh, women or daughters were excluded from the burnt offerings, but rather Aaron and his sons were anointed. That was their job. That was their role, period. So it's no different. You wouldn't go into police station is all of a sudden assume that you have all the authority of a police officer because that's their job,
Right.
right?
Okay, that's
And
good
or a
interpretation.
fireman or a firewoman. Do you see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So it makes more sense to me that that's, and it's a divine, appointment, if you will. So that's it. But it didn't exclude them from doing other things, but just those things at that time. And, it
That's
remained
the-
for
yeah.
millennium until the second temple fell, I guess.
Yeah, and as I said, Ken, for me, it's very weird, strange, surprising to see that the women can get food
Yeah.
to themselves as well. Yeah, and the fact that you are surprised about it, you're right to be surprised because women are mentioned as given anything very rarely, very rarely.
That's it. One last thing is thank you for pointing that out and sharing that. But it could have read beginning in line, was it 11? It could have read that that all the people are eligible. I give to you and all the people um, as a due for all time. Everyone in your household is clean may eat it. But it explicitly added the daughters, the women in there,
Yes, yeah,
because it would be the same thing if it didn't call it out, but God wanted it called out.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it is interesting, and as I said, for me, as is surprising, and I never paid attention to that, so I truly appreciate your
Oh.
pointing to that. I truly do.
That was very good, Ken.
Oh, thanks.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just remember
Go
something.
ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know, when religious women make challah, they take a piece of dough and put aside.
Yes.
And that's probably a tradition to leave it for the Kohanim. Never thought about it, but check it out because it might read very well that thing then. I still don't understand why women, when they bake or cook, would throw salt on the back, but or when they salt something, they also salt the back.
It's
Right, Anita,
superstition.
I don't know
That's a
what that,
superstition. That's
yeah,
separate.
probably.
It's Eastern European. That if you spilled salt, it meant that you were going to have a fight or something bad was going to happen.
No. This is not about spilling. This is
Oh,
about
you just in the cooking.
because I saw on TV,
Well, but that's what they're commenting that a portion it should something should be spilled so that it's not totally new. You've given it back, you're giving it either paying it forward or you're returning it to the earth, if you will.
Yeah, could very well be.
So it's fascinating. All the different traditions that we grew up with. All right. Let's see. We have enough time. Why don't we who else would like to read? But I'm always nervous with the Old English. David, why don't you go ahead and read, and if it's necessary, we can modernize it by reading it a second time. So, David, if you would kindly begin with Numbers 18, verse 12,
Mhm.
and read it through the end of 18.
All right. I'll try to do better this time.
No, it's the English. It's the Old English. That's why. You go ahead.
All the best of the oil and all the best of the wine, and of the corn, the first part of them, which they give unto the Lord. To thee have I given them, the first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring unto the Lord shall be thine. Every one that is clean in thy house may eat thereof. Everything devoted in Israel shall be thine. Everything that openeth the womb, and all flesh which they offer unto the Lord, both of man and beast, shall be thine. Howbeit the firstborn of man shalt thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts shalt thou redeem. And their redemption money from a month old shalt thou redeem them, shall be, according to thy valuation, 5 shekels of silver, after the shekel of the sanctuary, the same is 20 tenths. But the firstling of an ox, and the firstling of a sheep, and the firstling of a goat, thou shalt not redeem. They are holy. Thou shalt dash thy blood against the altar, and thou shalt make their fire smoke for an offering made by fire, for an event, for a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the flesh of them shall be thine, as the wave breast and as the right thigh, it shall be thine.
Okay. Now there's a lot to unpack here. Okay. And we sort of touched on verse 12 already. The best of the new oil, wine, and grain, the choice parts that they present to the Lord, I give to you. Okay. We've already made mention of that. But what about the rest of this? The first of everything in their land. Any comments?
Well, he's saying that the first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring unto the Lord, shall be thine. And he's being very specific here as to what will be thine and what will be his or hers. And it's, I just think that they're being very specific.
All right.
Can I-
Everything, the first fruits, all the first fruit, and mostly from the plant world. Okay. If it's new olive oil, wine, or various grain, and in David's version, it's corn. Is that all straight? Yes. Please, Grace.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, very well.
Thank you. I'm looking at inclusivity where it says in my Torah that everyone in their household. So it sounds like inclusiveness. So God is,
Yes.
stating that this is for all inclusive, who are clean, who are, practicing the way God has set it up for us. That may be a very simple way of looking at it, but the simplicity of it is So they're the sacred people. They're the holy of holy people. They're, God is looking at them as, I know you can perform this. So we are actually equals in this, that at one minute, atonement type of thing I'm seeing in that statement as well. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other comments? Yes, Ken.
Um, this the writings about the first of all that's new, the fruits, the wine, the grain. But it's those that are presented to them,
Yes.
to
Mm-hmm.
Aaron and his sons and the Levite, are that God says he gives to them. But in other words, when I first read it, and I'm like, well, what are the people going to eat if they're going to give everything that the first fruit? No, it's only what they present to them that's like, okay, you can have it. It's okay. It's good. And the same thing with the next thing, even the first issue of the womb, okay, of man or beast,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only those which are brought to them to be offered to the Lord.
Right.
So they didn't take anything, and people didn't feel compelled to give everything,
Correct. They're not
but
supposed to
only
eat
some
everything.
things.
That's
Okay.
right.
In that same section, but on line 15, I do have a question. I don't understand the language at all. But on 15, at the near the end of the sentence, and you shall also have the firstling of unclean animals redeemed.
Yep.
So unclean animals were those with the cleft hoofs. I mean,
Mhm.
what are we talking about, and how were they redeemed? Could they be sacrificed and the like?
Okay. Now there there are many different levels here with clean and unclean. Okay. Uh, let's first talk about the animals since you brought it up first. Uh, you have what is the characteristic that you have to that you go by for an unclean animal?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Oh, the hoof, the
Yeah, the hoofs.
That's one, the cloven hoof.
But also if he has blemishes, if he was wounded or
Yes.
it's,
That's why I say there are lots of levels. First, I want that you have this with the animal, that's obvious. Mary is bringing up another way of looking at this. Please, Rabbi Mary, repeat that.
well, when an animal is not clean in the sense that he is perfect. I mean, that's someone made a hole in his ear or something, or made a cut on it, or is blind, or has any physical disability that animal and humans that have disabilities are forbidden of doing all kind of stuff connected with holiness, unfortunately. But at that time, that's what they saw. I mean, if you're going to do something for God, you have to be perfect. So that could be that. Now, the issue of the word redeem is that since you cannot give that animal, I think that you have to redeem it by paying for that.
Yes.
Because we have that cant into So what happened? My first son has to go to work for Aaron, for the temple, has to be given to God because it says so. You redeem it. It's called Pidyon. It's called Pidyon Aben,
Right.
the redemption of the son. So instead of giving the son, you give money to the temple. Okay, and it's the same with an animals. Now, for your information, like my son was born by a cesarean Schnitt, he doesn't qualify for this. It has to be someone that came from, what do they call it in here?
A natural birth, I'll
Natural
simplify
birth.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was lucky in that one.
yeah.
I didn't have to give money to anyone. But, you know, understanding, you don't want to give that.
Right.
You also ask the fruit. Why should I give the first fruit to the temple? So what about me? It's a kind of a thinking thing of, God, you gave me these fruits. And as a thank, I give you the first ones. I suppose that that they did like on year first, they gave to the temple. On year two, they had already old fruits, so they don't have to give to the temple. So I'm not sure about that one. You need to ask the rabbis that know about agriculture and giving to God. It's complicated. It's complicated. Rabbi Lockheim used to tell that, you know, if you have a fruit tree, you're dying to eat the oranges. You know, the first orange that came out, but it's not yours. You have to give it as a thank for the rest of the oranges, something like that. So it's something that needs to be taken apart, Kent. I cannot give you all the answers, and that's what I know.
This is something I think next week we can come back to this.
Yeah.
To be able to discuss this because then you have to use, you know, we really have not gotten into what is clean, what is considered clean. The word is used several times today, and it's going to also come up as we go through our discussions next week. Okay. So I think that those two, and then if you will, there's a redemption price, and then there are different customs that have gone on since then, and we can, because when they use the term month, well, was it a lunar month, 28 days? Was it even months, 30 days, or was it odd months uh, uh, at 31 days? And
We don't have in the Jewish calendar 30 days, not.
that's right. That's right. And
But
so
we add a month.
So, they do that in the Hebrew calendar, but in the English calendar that we use, you know, well, actually, I'm going to say it's Roman calendar, Gregorian calendar. What we're going to do is there are different debates in Judaism to this day as to the exact timing of events when you can do the redemption. So I think it's an interesting, different, an interesting discussion, and especially what is meant by the word clean.
Okay.
What's
And
kosher.
by redemption, you mean the paying instead of
Yes,
the slaughter.
sacrifice
Okay.
or the child then being dedicated to serve in the temple. You can redeem the child, the male, the firstborn male. And so you have an animal or a human that can be redeemed.
Right.
So it'll
But
be
what's
an interesting
interesting,
discussion in and of
and I
itself.
would appreciate picking up with this, and not to belabor it now, but in line 17, I mean, you have your big three by way of animals.
Yes,
You have your sheep, cattle, and goats,
yes,
and those may not be redeemed, right?
yes,
You just gotta.
because those were going to be the burnt offerings.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
So
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you and Rabbi and all for contributing and helping me here.
this was very good. Now, before we close, Grace, who is the new dog behind you? I
Ah,
haven't
yes,
seen that picture before.
that is Baxter. He was my first diabetic alert dog.
Ah,
He got cancer at the age of 4 and had to be put down.
Oh,
ah.
Yeah, he's very sweet. Miss him lots.
Yeah, I was going to say the dogs. Well, I have a thing for dogs. Others have things for cats, but I have a thing for dogs. But
Me too.
I
Shabbat
just noticed
shalom.
the
Thank
thing.
you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you
Mark.
for
thank
your
you
help
very much.
today,
Yes,
Rabbi
thank you,
Marie.
Rabbi.
Thank
Glad
you,
I
to
Marty.
just
hear.
wanted, oh, Rabbi, before you leave, I just want to say, my son-in-law, I call him my son all the time, but he is going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame in Texas in softball.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
so I'm going to miss our session on the 14th.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
because
Mazel tov.
I'm
That's
going
great.
there. So I just want to alert you. I think there's still a session, but if there's a service, we all can have relief.
We'll check our email.
But I just wanted to let you know, but I'll see you next week.
Tell that to
And
Rabbi
mention it
in
again.
case I also cannot come. So tell the
Okay,
Rabbi that you
things
won't.
happen. That's right.
Thank
I
you.
will send out
Thanks,
an
everybody.
email. I'll send
Shabbat
that out.
shalom.
Okay.
Okay,
Shabbat
Bye-bye,
take
shalom.
Rabbi.
care and
Bye-bye now.
have a great week.
Thank you.
Oh, I wanted to ask a question.
Oh, yes. What
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
question?
Okay, so I've been without internet for a while. I was gone for a week. That's why I was gone. And I've missed quite a bit. Have we moved back to Zoom entirely for a specific reason?
For time being, they are
Okay.
going to be, and the reason is because of a whole host of meetings at the temple during this time period. And so if we're going to be on using the temple, they're going to have to take down, move tables and chairs around a little bit, things like that. So for the time being, it's going to stay on Zoom till further notice. And
Is our Zoom channel changing every week? Like it
no,
was?
the one you are using now will still be okay. Sometime in February, it will be changed again. Okay, and we will find out if we can go back into the temple, at that point, because they have people coming in for cleaning. They have people, a whole slew of things and other meetings going on. And so it happens.
Good to know. I appreciate that. Yeah,
So
because I
we're gonna,
drove down, I'm staying in Tucson now. I drove down to the temple to be at Torah study and there was no one there.
oh
And
my goodness gracious.
I couldn't, so I just made the best of my day and did other things.
Okay, we had
But-
sent out in the email going back several
Right.
weeks about this, and so you finally got on. So this is going to also be temporary, just completely on Zoom, but it'll eventually go back to a combination. So we'll get it
Good to
worked
know.
out.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm flexible. I just don't
Okay.
always want to go through the process of looking up the Baxter Farrar.
Okay.
That email was created after him. So when he was still with me, I set up a Yahoo account. And he was such a special dog, a special breed, is just taught me worlds and worlds of
You
things.
mentioned breed. What was the breed?
He's a hybrid. He's half American Bulldog and half Boxer. And just
Ah,
a sweet, amazing animal. Oh my heavens.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Just amazing, amazing. So,
And Axel is okay?
yeah, he's here.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
good.
getting bigger. He's hit a
Oh
little
my
growth
goodness.
spurt.
Well, the standard poodle gets pretty, and if he inherited that part, he's going to be big.
Yeah, well, that's why I leave them intact. The male
Sure.
dogs will do better in life if you can leave them that way. But we'll see. As he's a teenager right now, and it can be challenging at times with him. So,
Uh,
but he's a good boy. He's a good boy. It says Baxter was very special. If you want, I got another picture. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll share one more, and I'll let you go. See. Here he is. I like this one.
oh, very nice.
Him too cute, right?
Yes.
Sure is.
Wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, he, could you just move to your left
How about
just a
that?
little bit? Okay, that colored area on one ear,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of him was white?
He had a round, actually an oval shaped brindle spot on
Oh,
his
okay.
left back quarter of his back.
Okay, the hind quarter, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
sharing.
Yeah, you have a wonderful week and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you
Shabbat
for having
shalom.
me today.
Hello.